have the president of the National Association of Resident Doctors, University of Benin branch, University of Benin Teaching Hospital, UBTH branch, here with us. Dr. David, yes, Dr. David Oriwere. Let me start by introducing you as a former colleague now. Now a doctor. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
All right. So thank God the strike has not started yet. You only give a 2 weeks ultimatum to the federal government, and on the expiration of that 2 weeks ultimatum, you go on strike. So what is the matter again?
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. David Oriwere, president of the association. You know, it's a national association. So for our own local chapter is the Association of Resident Doctors, UBTH, University of Benin Teaching Hospital. Okay. And just before we proceed, you know, it was pretty difficult to get on this morning because we lost a colleague yesterday. I just want to say condolences to the family again and to all resident doctors in UBTH as we go through this morning process. But we understand that this interview is necessary to set the record straight for the impending, will I call it an impending strike? Yes, an impending strike, but it's important to clarify the issues, which is where I'll start from. First of all, being that we gave a 2-week ultimatum, pending which our resolution says, resolution 9, says that pending which we may not be able to guarantee industrial harmony. By that we mean we have not said we will go on strike after that 2 weeks.
No, what are you asking for in the first place?
Okay, there are quite a lot of demands. First and foremost, there are 3 pertinent issues we have observed mitigating against progress in the health sector. One is manpower, issue of manpower, and that's occasioned by the brain drain that we see. 2 is the issue of infrastructure in the health sector, and 3 is the issue of remuneration. Now, as it concerns remuneration, part of our demands is as it relates to our consolidated medical salary structure, which has been long overdue for a review. Implementation started in, it was approved, the current salary structure which we operate commerce was approved in 2009. However, implementation started in 2014. And by the agreement, the collective bargaining agreement that was done prior to that approval, it was stated that the commerce is subject to review every 5 years. Now, from 2014 up until now, 2023, we know that that's more than 5 years, and it has not been reviewed. And then we get to see a circular that says a 25% increase in salary in the commerce is being proposed, and that is referring to our gross. And we say that a 25% increase is not commensurate with all of the effect of inflation, with all of the effect of the poor economic situation, the ups and downs that we've been experiencing in the country, say you want to give us a 25%. It looked to us an arbitrary figure. So NAD is saying that we want a 200% increase.
A 200%
yes, a 200% increase in the consolidated medical salary structure, because we feel and we think that that puts into consideration all of these factors that are currently mitigating against development, especially in the health sector.
Okay. Now, the point is, if your salary structure is, is subjected to kind of review every 4 to 5 years. Yeah. Now, you have a circular from the federal government now saying that there's a 25% proposed increment. So why don't we start from there?
Well, it would have been good to start from there, but you know, the challenge we keep having is the fact that government, we think that government negotiate without the intention to fulfill their negotiations. Aside the commerce, there are other issues. We came off the argument on the hazard allowances recently that were eventually paid in arrears. We are saying that, yes, you are making a proposal, that proposal of 25%, and bear in mind that the discussions did not even involve us directly as an association. NAD, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, is an affiliate of the Nigerian Medical Association. Nigerian Medical Association is our parent body, and we are about 4 affiliates under the Nigerian Medical Association. So the negotiation at this time rests directly with the Nigerian Medical Association. So are you trying, and we have not been carried along as a major workforce or a major player in the health sector.
Who has not carried you along now?
The federal government has not carried us along. Okay. Now, by the information from our national president, a meeting was supposed to be scheduled to include NAD in the discussions for these negotiations of the consolidated medical salary
structure.
So
the meeting was, NAD was not carried along?
NAD was not carried along.
It was only the NMA.
NAD has not been carried along up until now.
Okay, it was only the medical association that was carried along.
The Nigerian Medical Association.
All right, so if you say that now, why don't you ventilate your anger against the medical association instead of the federal government?
We also have been having discussions with the Nigerian Medical Association, but again, we know that there are certain issues that we can also get through, especially through the Federal Ministry of Health and through the National Postgraduate Medical College, because there are some other issues that relate to them directly. So we're also exploring these avenues. There are a lot of issues we know that the NMA also takes up. So yes, there are discussions with the NMA on the one hand to make sure there's the carrying along, but we also have direct channel and direct links to the Honorable Minister and to all those that are in charge of the health sector. That's why we also follow through our demands with them.
Okay. Now, a while ago, you said that your fears are probably that when government negotiates, you are concerned that government may not follow up the negotiation.
There's a history. There's a history of that.
If there is a history, why don't you wait until that time? Government has told you that, look, we're going to give you guys 25%. Now, the NAD is saying that because you guys believe that when government says anything, they never come to it. Why don't you just wait until then?
It will interest you to know that we have waited for so long on many issues. So there is a past there's a past record we can refer to say government has really not been compliant on fulfilling some of their obligations. I have copies of several communiques we have released in the past after our meetings. It will interest you to know that skipping areas of 2014, 2015, 2016 are still being owed our doctors currently. That has been a perennial issue that we have been discussing. Up till today, as I speak to you, that matter has not found resolution. So do we wait till an issue of 2023 becomes settled in perhaps 2030 or 2035? No. We must hit the nail on the head and call a spade as it concerns these issues. We cannot keep holding on and holding back. And again, we forget that the brain drain, which is another issue I believe we'll speak to shortly, affects all of us. If we cannot deal with all of these factors that are contributing to the brain drain, then we must be prepared for the worst, I must tell you.
Okay, now, I want to believe that NAD, as an association, NAD members now are members of NMA, that's the Nigerian Medical Association.
Effectively.
Now, from the look of things now, NMA may not want to go on strike. If at the end of your 2 weeks, ultimatum expires, you go on strike, and NMA says that you guys go back to work, are we not going to be at controversy here?
Well, first of all, the discussions to go on strike is not a personal decision. It's a decision of the members of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. And so when we get to that bridge, we will cross it. But suffice to say that every discussion that will get us to that point, our parent affiliate, the NMA, will properly be informed. NAD has had to go on strike severally with or without the input of the NMA. And we are at liberty to go on strike if the need arises. Okay. But we are saying from our resolution, which I want to clarify again, that after this 2 weeks expiration of the ultimatum, which is on the 13th of May, we may not be able to guarantee industrial harmony. So it means that a meeting will be called where we will review positions. We are aware that the federal government has started making efforts to reach out and to get the issues sorted. But if they have not been satisfactorily sorted, the members of NAD will take the decision as to whether to go on strike or not. Okay, now let me also ask, because each time I have doctors, I always like to ask about the oath of office that you took. I mean, your primary responsibility is probably not even to the federal government, in as much as you are paid by the federal government, but your primary responsibility is to the lives that you save. So which one is more important to resident doctors? Let's start from there, because I know that your service is more of humanitarian service. We have a duty of care, according to our Hippocratic oath, we have a duty of care to our patients. That's very important, and that's the part that is probably being stressed at every point in time. And it's also very painful when you threaten that you want to go on strike. It's also important to know that we have a duty of care to ourselves. Doctors are stressed. The current doctor-to-patient ratio quota has been overstretched. Our house officers, our residents, both junior residents and senior residents in the hospital, are overstretched. We have increased waiting time of patients. So all of the issues that border on our patients also border on us, because we feel the effect. clinics that will regularly run from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. For example, in our center here in UBTH, clinics run up till 9 p.m. These are doctors that have families. These are doctors that have people that they take care of as well personally. These are doctors that have issues. They have training. Don't forget that there's a training component of our work for those of us that work in the teaching hospital setting. We must go for exams. The exam cycle is actually on currently. We must go for exams. So we have to read. We have to take care of patients. There's a whole lot we have to do within the 24 hours that is possible. So when we hear the narrative of saying our duties to our patients, let's not forget that Hippocratic Oath also requires that as doctors we take care of ourselves. If the doctor is not taken care of, there will be nobody to take care of the patients.
Okay. Now I want to believe that my co-anchor in Abuja, Dominic Ayemese, is going to be having one or two questions for you. So we'll make preparations so that we'll link up to Dominic one more time so that he can ask a question from Abuja. Because all right, so we have Dominic now. Now, Dominic, we have the president of NAD, UBTH. UBTH. All right, so Dr. David Orewere. So you want to ask one or two questions too?
Yes, we've been following your discussion with Dr. David, and it's quite interesting. But the problem here is that we keep hearing these demands of resident doctors for a very long time. But I want to ask, when do you think these issues will come to an end? Because now the government said they are working on it, and probably they have some proposition for you on the table for you to see how you could, and maybe shift your stall and go back to work, or probably attend to your patients instead of making these threats of nobody knows what will be your decision after the 2 weeks ultimatum. But I want to know, when do you think these problems will end? So we stop going back and front with either the medical doctors, your mother body, or the federal government. When do you think this will end? What do you think should be the last solution? Even though I know we can't get it all solved at the same time, but what do you think should be the immediate solution that will put a long-lasting solution to this?
For me, I think there has to be the will and the commitment of government to make sure that they honor and abide by the agreements. Like I said a while ago, an agreement, a collective bargaining agreement was made far back in 2009. Approval was given in 2009, but implementation didn't even come into effect in 2014. All through the period while we trained in school, doctors have always been going on strike almost every year. And for us, that hasn't been a palatable situation. We thought there would be an end to it soon. But we have come into the system and we still see that we are going on strike. So if we say, if you ask me the question of when do we think this will come to an end, I cannot say in the foreseeable future. I think that answer rests with government to answer, to give us a definite answer to. Because the onus rests on them to abide by the agreements they have committed to. Okay. Now, even looking at the issue of the MRTF 2023, which is part of our demands, part of the demands we are making, that MRTF 2023 should be
What do you mean
paid.
by MRTF now?
MRTF is the Medical Residency Training Fund.
Okay.
It's actually an act that was signed into law that requires government to make a certain amount of money available for the training of every resident doctor per year. And it's supposed to span the period of the residency training. Now, there have been back and forth on the issue of the MRTF. Eventually, with the increase of DTA by the government, there was an upward review in the MRTF. Now, we had the challenges of should monies go to our National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria is the body that's responsible for our training. Okay. Should the monies go to the National Postgraduate Medical College, as in some component of the money? There's another college that is the West African College, both West African College of Physicians and West African College of Surgeons. And there are people that go for these exams, and they also need these monies to cater for their exams. There was a meeting where it was the last meeting that of which we had the MRTF discussions. It was decided that the National Postgraduate Medical College communicate in a memo to the West African colleges to say we will make the percentage of money available for you, for students or for residents that will write the West Africa exam. Up till today, that money has not been sorted. We have, that memo has not been sorted. We have written several, we have updated our list severally with the National Postgraduate Medical College, with the Federal Ministry of Health, on the number of residents currently being trained, so that monies will be paid. Because part of the agreement also was that monies be paid before the cycle of exams. We have 2 cycles of exams, one in April and one in October. The April cycle of exams is already elapsed. Yeah. And people have paid money for this exam, yet they have not been given the medical residency training fund. So that's another challenge altogether in itself. We find out that we eventually keep on talking about areas, because the issues are not settled at the time they should be settled.
All right, so a while ago you talked about the brain drain thing, you know, that is also a concern for you people. But don't you also, because I understand that there's an arrangement now, I think the other day the House of the National Assembly, you know, was trying to put a law together that at the completion of your training, you must have worked for like 5 years and all that before you can even think of traveling out and all that. Now, don't you also think that on the part of the government, that they are trying to hold back doctors? I mean, Nigeria is probably one nation that you have doctors pulling out every now and then. Don't you think so?
Well, speaking to that bill, which is also part of the reasons why we're calling for this, we gave this ultimatum. We want to say that in its entirety, like we have done at the last emergency NEC meeting, we condemn that bill in its entirety. In fact, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, has also come out to condemn that bill. That bill, for all intents and purposes, is lacking in value, if I must use this word. That bill did not take into cognizance research and statistics. The bill is defective on all fronts. And we have called for a withdrawal of that bill by Honorable Ganiyu Johnson, because that bill does not reflect the true position of the state of the health sector. It is putting the cart before the horse. You cannot come to compel people to remain after being trained when you have not put facilities in place, you have not put the necessary infrastructure in place to make sure that the training is wholesome. Now, the bill fundamentally also infringes on our rights to movement. The doctors in Nigeria are not the only health professionals moving, are not the only health professionals that are affected by brain drain. It's interesting to note that more nurses are even moving than doctors are moving.
Now, the reason why I'm asking this question, because a while ago, you raised concerns about the ratio of doctor to patients. I mean, truth be told, you go to some of the public health facilities, you'll be overwhelmed.
Very overwhelmed.
The way patients come in and all that. So if the House of Rep now trying to pass a bill in order to see that doctors are held back at home, don't you think they are trying to help the situation?
We are saying that
don't you think they are trying to help you after all?
Holding us back for 5 years doesn't solve this issue. The fundamental issue remains that the infrastructure must be in place, remuneration must be in place. We know that factors that affect, when we talk about factors that affect migration, they are the push and pull factors. People want to move to where there are good working conditions. We have said previously that insecurity had been one of the bane of why doctors move. There are many, aside the remuneration, aside the infrastructure, insecurity in our country is another reason why doctors move.
It was also, you know, concern you to know that most times some of these doctors, they get you know, outside the country, they do not, you know, continue in their practice. Anyway, that's
another issue of altogether.
I have one or two of them, you know, that are personal relatives to me now.
Okay, but as it concerns, it just shows for us in Nigeria, I think the issue is the priority to healthcare, which government hasn't given. When we look at the budget, now I have facts to back this up. When we look at the budget, there was the Abuja Declaration of 2001 that says that government should give at least 15% or dedicate at least 15% of their budget to healthcare. The 2023 Nigerian budget gives 5.4 or 5.7%?
No, that seems to be really big. That seems to be a general issue, because if you talk about health, what about education?
But this we cannot downplay healthcare in the overall existence of a nation. Any serious government that needs to be productive and that needs to be innovative must pay attention to healthcare. And we see that the body language and the responses from our leaders, especially for the fact that leaders have to go abroad for treatment, doesn't also help, or doesn't help also give a serious face to the issue of helping the healthcare situation of this country.
Okay. All right.
So the will must come from government. The commitment must come from government to see that the health system is giving priority attention.
Okay. Now,
a healthy people is a wealthy people.
True talk there. Now, before we wrap it up on this segment here in Benin, let's come home now a little bit, Dr. David. Now, let's talk about the attitude of some of your resident doctors. You know, if you go to public health facilities, well, I don't want to give it to the fact that maybe because they are overwhelmed. Because, I mean, for somebody that took to that profession, that took to that discipline, you should be ready and all that. Now, the attitude to work of some of the resident doctors is really not encouraging. Most especially if you go to some of the public health facilities, the emergency units and all that, the doctors, they don't rise up to their responsibility. What is going on?
Now,
your association.
When you talk about attitude, yeah, it looks blanket in a certain sense, because when a patient comes into the hospital, there are several people that are responsible for handling the patient, aside the doctor. Yes, the doctor will be called eventually, but for example, let me use the instance of medical accident and emergency. There's the triage. There are the people that will receive the patient from the ambulance, bring him into the triage section for proper evaluation as to know what his condition is, as to sort out, to know how serious the condition is, so that the doctor or the person responsible will be called upon to see. Now, when the doctor is called upon to see, to the best of my knowledge, our doctors are responsive and responsible when it comes to treating patients, especially patients that are in critical care and have need for proper attention. Now, we cannot rule out the fact that a doctor might have been on call and might have been stressed and will be called to see this patient. Of course, he has to tidy the issues he's currently handling before he comes to see the patient. So I may not completely agree with you when you say that blanket, that there is a wrong attitude. It might be individual. It might be an individual thing. But again, we talk to our people regularly.
It's almost turning
we talk to our people regularly.
It's almost turning into
on the need to attend to people with all of the decency, with all of the care and caution that they should attend to them.
I know. Naturally, you may want to protect your side and all that, but it's almost a public issue now. I don't want to mention any of the public health facilities, okay. Because I'm a doctor, but I know that the first thing that a doctor should do is to show empathy.
We do show empathy.
You understand? You show empathy to your patients, and that's very, very healing.
We do show empathy.
Sometimes there are reports. Members of the public, we're in the media. We hear all sort of reports and all that you approach public health facilities, most especially emergency wards, that doctors approach you as if, and to patients, that kills them the first instance.
As much as I know, doctors in UBTH are empathic. Doctors in UBTH go overboard for patients. Doctors in UBTH sometimes even make payments for their patients.
Anyway, I'll let you go because of work now. Now, we're going to ensure that we have the other side of this discussion so that we can also hear from the government because an ultimatum has been given that elapses on the 13th.
13th of May.
That's about 10 days from now.
Yes, we are 4 days into the ultimatum.
So if you're if what you're demanding for are not met, you go on strike.
We have not said we'll go on strike again. Let me correct that. In fact, let me read to you that resolution. That NEC resolves to issue the government a 2-week ultimatum beginning today, 29th of April 2023, to resolve all these demands, 8 of them as a sole listed.
At the expiration of the 2 weeks.
Following the expiration of which on the 13th of May, we may not be able to guarantee industrial harmony in the sector
just said it now,
nationwide.
You won't guarantee. If there's no industrial harmony,
whatever point of action, strike or not, that will be called, will be left to the decision of members of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors.
Maybe that's just a subtle way of saying it away. Anyway, I want to say thank you so much, Dr. David Orewere, the president of NAD UBTA chapter, for finding time to come on our show today.